Alrighty, good morning everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We are going to get started in just 1 minute, but I want to give some time for others to hop on before we get started. Alrighty, I think we are ready to go. So welcome everyone to ATP's webinar. Today we will be discussing ATP's work with our research partner Mobility Lab. My name is Ellie Heil. I'm a business development manager with Arlington Transportation Partners. Speaking with me today are Beth Dodson, our research director at Mobility Lab, and Stacy Foster, vice president of workplace experience at MasterCard. Thank you so much to both of you for taking the time today, and let's get started. So today we hope to answer the questions: what is Mobility Lab? How can working with Mobility Lab benefit my organization or property? What are density plot maps and surveys, and why are they beneficial? And what was MasterCard's experience doing a density plot map? And we'll save time at the end for your questions, so just make sure to drop them in the chat. So what is Mobility Lab? I will turn it over to Beth to give us an overview and tell us about their important work. Thanks for being here, Beth.
Sure, thanks, Ellie. Mobility Lab is a research center for transportation demand management. We study how people use transportation systems to move around Arlington and the Washington, D.C. area. We like to share research findings that showcase transportation options and the benefits, both societal and geographical, of TDM. Essentially, we provide data-driven support for behavior change and getting cars off the road. And we provide services for employers and residential properties in and around Arlington. We like to offer custom surveys to provide detailed analysis of residents and employees of specific properties to determine how far people are traveling and what motivates their mode choices. We can also help determine awareness of specific TDM services based on the results of these surveys and analyses that we provide.
Great, thank you, Beth. Next, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into each of these services throughout the presentation, but as a client of ATP, you have the opportunity to utilize any of these services for free. Employers and commercial properties can consider conducting an employee commute and benefit survey, as well as density plot maps to better understand commuting patterns to the office. Multifamily residential properties will want to focus on how a survey could benefit the community by learning more about residents' needs regarding commuting and amenities. So for density plot maps, this is one of the main two services that Mobility Lab and ATP can help you use. And first, we'll be discussing plot maps. And you might have also heard these called employee zip code maps as well. Density plot maps are a visual tool for employers and commercial properties as they depict where individual trips originate from. And you may be wondering, why do I need to see where my tenants and employees live? Well, it's not to be nosy, but having the ability to see employee distribution visually broken up by zip code can help you and your organization make decisions about policies, benefits, and amenities. And now we're going to discuss some benefits of conducting a density plot map with ATP and Mobility Lab. So Working with us to create a density plot map can be useful if you're hoping to encourage a mode shift away from driving alone. Plot maps are especially useful to identify opportunities for groups of employees who are positioned well to form carpools and van pools, because we can see employees coming from the same zip code or zip codes along the route to the office that could share the ride. Having this tool can help your employees or tenants reduce commuting costs, save time in the HOV lanes, or if they opt for van pool, reduce wear and tear on their personal vehicles. On the other hand, if it's identified that your employees live close to a metro stop or the office itself, a pre-tax, direct, or combination commuter benefit, or even a capital bike share membership could be just what your employees need for easy commuting. Similarly, commercial properties can identify if they need to expand bike parking, add carpool and van pool spaces, or offer new tenants free preloaded SmartTrip cards as a benefit. The process for creating a density plot map is simple for you as the employer or property manager. All you'll need to do is send ATP a list of current employees' zip codes who commute to the office location. The data is collected with privacy in mind, and no zip code information you share is tied to a single employee's name or address. All that's needed is just a list of zip codes. Beyond that, ATP and Mobility Lab will work together to create your map and produce recommendations based on the results. As an added benefit, members of the Champions program are eligible for credit in the silver level for providing zip code data to have a map created. And next, we are going to discuss surveys. So surveys are another great tool for any organization or property to learn more about their employees, tenants, or residents' commutes. They offer insight into their travel patterns and preferences, so you can make educated decisions based on information directly from the people it will affect. If you've already had a density plot map made, you may want to consider following up with a survey to learn more in depth about the commuters. There are many reasons to conduct a survey, like an upcoming policy change. For example, if your employer or tenants are planning to return to office soon, I know that's been a big push recently. As a property manager or employer, you may also want to have an annual or just quarterly gauge on if benefits and amenities are being used, or to identify if they're going unused. Surveys can help answer why they may be going unused and what other benefits or amenities respondents would prefer. ATP also offers cold level credit to champions who complete a survey. Now for launching and creating the survey, a great aspect of working with ATP and Mobility Lab for surveys is we can completely customize the survey to get to the questions that really matter. They can be as short or as comprehensive as you'd like, but usually only take about 5 to 10 minutes to complete. They're shared via an online link, simplifying distribution to your employees, communities, or tenants. ATP can also send you tailored language to share periodic reminders to complete the survey. Additionally, we often find that conducting a survey goes great when supplemented by an event. Your ATP rep can be on site to share information about transportation options, hand out swag and safety equipment, and of course, encourage survey responses and answer any questions so the responses are accurate. Hosting an event with ATP is eligible for gold level credit in the Champions program, in addition to the credit you've received for the survey itself. All right, so next let's hear from Stacy Foster, Vice President of Workplace Experience at MasterCard, about their experience working with ATP and Mobility Lab to create density plot maps. Stacy, thank you again for joining us today. Can you share with everyone about MasterCard's motivations and experience with the density plot map being created with ATP and Mobility Lab? Oh, Stacy, you're still muted. I still can't hear you. Weird, we just had you a little bit ago. Nope.
I think she's gonna rejoin.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm really excited for everyone to hear about MasterCard's experience. They had, from what I hear, they're continuing to do density plot maps year over year, which I hope we'll hear from with Stacy. I'm not her ATP rep, so I don't work with her on that. But from what I've heard, they've had a really great experience.
That's good to hear.
I think maybe we could take a question while we're waiting.
Yeah, let's do that.
So I do see a question in the chat. It says, if I'm having issues getting enough of my employees to complete the survey, what are some ways to encourage a higher response rate if my company can't afford a cash incentive? That's a really great question. I think having ATP for an event is a great way because we can also provide them with information and materials to hopefully help ease their commute.
I think too, sending out reminders is always a good idea. Also tabling events, catching people right where they are, keeping the surveys really short so that you're capturing the most relevant data in a really quick period of time so you don't lose people with what's called survey fatigue. I think that's a really great way too to increase response rates. The shorter the survey, the more responses we tend to get.
That's a great point.
Can you hear me now?
Oh yes, Stacy, welcome back.
You still cannot hear me.
We can hear you.
Can you hear me though?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't do anything different. I just hung up and reconnected.
Well, we're glad to have you back.
Are you ready for me to get going?
Yes, go for it whenever.
Awesome. So what I was trying to say is that my neck was hurting from all of the nodding that I did through your introduction there. So I'm a huge cheerleader for ATP and all of the help that has been provided. And thank you, Beth, and to her team for the help with the plot map. I didn't even know that this was an option until I had a check-in with Mark at ATP and was talking with him about, some issues, that we were working through at MasterCard. And he was like, hey, I have an idea. And I was like, oh, you can do that? Awesome. So to back up a little bit, coming out of the pandemic, right, there was a real spotlight and need, not just from MasterCard, but across Arlington. I'm sure some of you on the line are familiar with it. Really to think about what could encourage our employees to want to come back to the office and to start working in office at a location in Arlington. So we were evaluating, hey, what can we do to incentivize employees to come in? How can we improve the environment and the experience? How can we best support them, as well as an employee? And really, just understanding how can we get more utilization, right, out of our office building. So in looking at this, of course, we were very interested in some data, around it. I'm a geek. I'm very, excited to have like factual, information and data available, especially if I'm working with my peers and want to really show, why we have an idea and we want to like move forward, on an idea. So in talking with Mark, one thing I was really excited about was the data privacy aspect of what could be done. MasterCard, just like I'm sure the organizations on the line, very important that we're extremely careful with data privacy. We did not want to share exact addresses, of anyone. It's none of my business. If my colleague is commuting from an apartment building, located 10 miles away, I don't need to know that. So one thing I really appreciated was just having that zip code information. And that helped me in my internal process because I had to work with our data privacy teams and connect with like our HR teams to look at, some of the data we have in Workday. We use Workday. And some of the requirements around that, of course, was how will the data be used and what exact data, will be provided. So the fact that there were no names, associated with it, no specific addresses associated with it, we were able to get approval internally to go ahead and pull that information down and share that information. What I would say is when you're working through this process, give a few weeks. So depending on how your internal processes go, it might take you a couple weeks to obtain that approval, to share that data. And then it could take, 3-4 weeks or so to get that gorgeous, visualization back that you can share out. So it's not like an overnight process. I just wanted to mention that, for planning to make sure that you have time, built into your schedule to plan for that. And then once we had the map back, it was great because it was very easy to take that image and just drop it into a PowerPoint, presentation that could be shared with the leadership team. So I would say we didn't have any huge shockers out of the data. I would say that one thing that surprised me is I was able to find out that we have some employees who commute from Baltimore. It was like, oh my gosh, so I wasn't aware of that. So that was interesting. But what we were able to confirm is that most of our employee base was working from Arlington County, which was great. So that was good to know. But we also had a significant percentage of employees who were also commuting in from Fairfax County and from Loudoun County. So that helped us in a few ways. So it helped us understand that, hey, there may be a commute, situation. And we were hearing that feedback from employees too. We went out, surveys were mentioned earlier. Internal to MasterCard will sometimes do like pulse surveys or focus groups or just, the hallway conversations, right? Like, hey, what's your situation? Is there a roadblock, in preventing you from being able to work on site, a certain amount of time? And time came up for the commute and commuting costs. That was another one that came up. We're located in Ballston, right next to Ballston Metro, which is great. And we do have employees that use Metro. But for those individuals who may be driving, you have the tolls. You have the tolls that go up and down, depending on the time of day. You may have parking, costs associated with it. So what the data was able to help us with is determine that one, it may be beneficial to, when applicable and able to, provide some of our teams flexible work hours. So maybe they can leave and come in at certain times of the day where they may not be sitting in rush hour and tolls may not be as high. So that was beneficial and really helped out, as well. And then also just understanding, okay, our local employees, they may be able to walk, they may be biking. Are they aware we have Capital Bike Share, here? Are they aware that we have a locker room, that people can use to change, and that we have a bike cage? So that really kind of opened our eyes to other conversations, that we could be having with staff. One action we took because of the number of employees we had at other counties, who were coming in, was to start to look at carpooling and van pooling options. And thanks to ATP, we had several events on site. They were hybrid events where we shared information about the benefits of carpooling. So carpooling can save time. If you're a passenger, you can multitask, you can sleep, if you're carpooling or van pooling. You can save costs if you, work out an arrangement where you're giving a certain amount for gas, or a certain amount for parking with carpooling. So the first thing we did was, it was a very quick way. It was not a need to change a MasterCard benefit. It was just being able to give a way for our employees to self-service and make connections. So we made like a very simple Excel spreadsheet and just posted it online and basically said, hey, if you're interested in carpooling, please provide like your name, your email, your location, that you're coming out of. And then basically they just look at that spreadsheet and they can see, oh, okay, I have someone else who also, lives near me in like the One Loudoun area, of Ashburn. So they can pick up the phone and call that person. So we did have some individuals who are leveraging that situation where they're just self-managing it. They're all working together and they're carpooling. So we were able to connect them that way. And then we also recently had a wonderful van pulling event where we had Enterprise. Enterprise came out and joined us as well, where they talked about the benefits of carpooling, the options around that, obtaining a vehicle. There's a pilot program associated with it where you're even given some money, to help you with that, to give it a try, for a few months. Our building where we're located in 4250 at North Fairfax, and SP Plus manages our garage and Piedmont is our landlord. So we were able to connect with them, and ATP helped with this to determine that they do have carpooling and van pulling parking spots available in our parking garage. And my understanding is for van pulling, like it's comped. So if there is a van pool, there's a certain amount of like parking comps, available that can be given to that group, and I believe it's 4 or more for a van pool. So then that would save money on parking, which can add up, depending on what garage you're in. But it's been a great experience, and having that data. And the interesting thing is we've started to do this year over year so we can see the trends. Like do we have employees who have moved? Do we have more who are coming in closer, to the office in Arlington County? Or is it time to have another conversation, and another information session where we're talking about the benefits of connecting together and van pulling, or carpooling. Another nice thing is when you do this and work with ATP and ATP's partners on this, you do obtain that credit that was mentioned earlier that can go for your champions status and champions renewal. So last year, I'm very proud to say we made platinum. This was the first year we made a platinum at MasterCard, but it was just very nice to be able to do that, benefit, our employees, and then also get something out of it, as well, a nice employer designation, that you can use and add to your job, recs that you're sharing out. That was a lot, and I talked very fast. So is there anything that anything I missed you'd like to hear a little more about? Or are there any questions? And I'm sorry, I have not been looking at chat.
No worries, Stacey. I don't see anything in the chat at the moment. I was wondering, in terms of your carpool and your van pool event, was there something that you did to incentivize people to come into the office? I know carpooling and van pooling usually aren't, that's not everyone's favorite topic to like, they're coming into the office today to discuss, but I'm just wondering, like, how did you work with staff to make those events super popular? Because they sound successful for sure.
Yeah, so a couple suggestions for those of you who plan these types of activities. One is food, right? So we were lucky enough that ATP and Enterprise, they were like, hey, we'll bring pizza. I'm like, great, food, sweets, donuts, it could be like a Dunkin' Donut run, as well. I've found that, for meetings like this, it does help if you have food or drink, there as well. Another thing I try to do as an event organizer is bookend it. So if there's another on-site event or activity happening that day, make it, I call it like the more bang for your buck, right? So if we know there's a big weekly in-office day, we might schedule like a few different meetings that day that may benefit from, you know, having more of that in-person type of connection. And if there's an opportunity to have like a networking, like time for one-on-one networking or a social, you know, afterwards, that can help with attendance as well. But food definitely helps.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I would definitely come into the office to learn about van pools and carpools for a pizza party. And I also want to mention, you brought up a good point about how your office, the parking, you know, management can subsidize for carpools and van pools. And that's a common thing throughout Arlington, that commercial properties often do offer a carpool and van pool program, which usually consists of reduced or fee-free parking and preferential spaces near like elevators and exits. So that's definitely something that you might want to check in with your building and see if that's offered, and definitely promote that to your employees, and, you know, bring it full circle. You know, it's not just them carpooling for the environment. You know, they'll save money on parking and on, you know, maintenance costs for their cars and all that good stuff. So thank you
For
for
mentioning the environment, you know, as well. So that was something else that of course, we absolutely appreciate. If your organization does have an ESG related, you know, type of strategy, being able to show that, you know, hey, you know, you're making a difference, you know, with this, and, you know, you're actively communicating and encouraging more use of either, you know, public transportation or carpooling, you know, or van pooling, having data, of course, you know, to back up trends, you know, that may happen year over year with that can help support your ESG strategy as well.
absolutely. For sure. Well, thank you again, Stacy, for sharing your experience. I'm so glad that MasterCard found their density plot map to be beneficial in understanding employees' commutes and setting up that spreadsheet so that they can communicate together and form those programs, and you know, use it internally for your business operations and continue to use it as you're doing year over year.
Thank you.
Alrighty, so I think we'll move on to just some takeaways from today, and just review some of the main points that we went over. I hope those of you listening are considering if a density plot map, survey, or both might be helpful, especially if you're a champion and looking to do something new this year to level up, just like Stacy. Congrats again on Platinum. And just to summarize, density plot maps help you by giving a visual of commuting patterns to your commercial space or office, and surveys are beneficial because they go further in depth to the commuter's experience, so you can better tailor your benefits and amenities to those they serve. And I haven't seen, let me check the chat and any other questions. We have a question: what percentage of your population are doing carpool? I think that's for you, Stacy.
So that's an interesting one. I would say it's rather, well, lower than what I would like. I would say it's probably like 5%, you know, or less, you know, who are currently doing it. Another thing that I should have mentioned too is since it's not like a new benefit, you know, specifically, and it was more of a self-managed, you know, type of thing, we're not asking them to report in, you know, with us regarding, you know, like how often, you know, they use it, how many individuals, you know, are in their car, you know, and things like that. We're really just letting them self-manage it. So I would say it's probably a little, you know, a little lower than where we would like. But, you know, again, with the recent van pulling, you know, discussion and that event that we had, like, we didn't know that there's that you can get some money back, you know, basically money back in your pockets, you know, around that. And we weren't aware, you know, of some of the benefits that ATP, you know, is knowledgeable about. So there were definitely like some cost savings incentives, you know, around that. And one of the big differences, at least that I view from carpooling to van pulling, is that with the van pulling, a vehicle is provided. Like someone basically is accountable, for that vehicle. So if there is an individual, maybe they don't have, a car, or maybe they don't want to use, or put wear and tear on their vehicle, that could be one benefit, of van pulling. With carpooling, you could have two people. So I guess, again, that's kind of like the advantage of the carpool, right? It could be two people one day, five the next. With van pull, I believe it's like 4 or more. But for those who are participating in on it, I've heard like good, like hallway, conversations, around it, but they are self-managing it.
Awesome. And yeah, thank you for the question. I see one more here. How can I best encourage the leaders at my company to have a survey or plot map for our company if they have never done anything like that before? They have always been very hands-off. Stacy, did you have any experience with that in your density plot map?
Yeah, I could say it helped that honestly, the Beth's team and ATP, they did the heavy lift, right? Like, so our effort was, just basically getting buy-in around the data privacy, and the fact that, it was just zip code information that needed to be pulled down. It was basically an internal reporting request. So, step one was getting that, and your process may vary a little bit, but it was just getting that approval to be able to share that information, and then a report request, to actually pull that information out of whatever system, you're using that houses your employee data. And then I simply just took that Excel spreadsheet and sent it over to ATP and waited, and got a really nice looking graphic back a few weeks later.
Awesome. Yeah, and I would say on top of that, from the ATP perspective, we try to make it as light of a lift for our clients. It sounds like Stacy had a little bit internally, a couple weeks of data privacy information, but once you have the zip codes, it's really on ATP and Mobility Lab to just finish out the process. And then the additional, getting champions credit for it and having that to promote on your website, promote to your employees, and show them what you're doing to try and help them in their everyday experience, I think can go a long way in terms of, trying to get decision makers to buy in. Also, that it's a free service. Beth works really hard to make sure all of our surveys and density plot maps are great and comprehensive, and it's not often you can get a free service like that with such high standards and quality.
In fact, maybe lead with that, because I know there are some leaders who are like, cut to the chase. How much funding, are you requesting? Just start with there. It's like, hey, it's covered. It's covered in our relationship with, ATP. It's covered.
Exactly. Alrighty, well, I'm not seeing any other questions come in, so I will move along, but I just want to thank everyone so much who joined us this morning, and thank you, Beth and Stacy, again for taking the time to share with the ATP network and about Mobility Lab and MasterCard's experiences. And if you are interested in being in touch with your ATP rep about getting started with the density plot map, survey, champions, or anything else, feel free to scan the QR code on the screen. And we'll stick around for about another minute just so you can scan the code and if any other questions come in. But other than that, we hope to see you at our next event. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alrighty, I'm going to go ahead and end the webinar, but thank you again to everyone, and thank you again, Beth and Stacy. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Great to see you guys.
Bye.
Bye.